Welcome to the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Krystal. We're business coaches and retreat hosts for bold, purpose-driven women who are ready to build businesses that actually fit their lives.
This podcast is for the authentic, rebellious entrepreneur who's done playing by everyone else's rules. We know what works because we've lived it, coached it, and savored the journey.
Join us for real talk on business, life, and everything in between. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. My name is Krystal. I am back with Wendy this week as she has returned back from a lovely vacation.
Yes.
A lovely vacation. And I was also traveling over the weekend for a funeral. Not lovely, but truly nothing felt that lovely this weekend with the state of world events and the news in Minneapolis and everything else that is going on. And it really got us to thinking in the background, and we just needed to hop on and record really quick because the fact of the matter is, if you haven't figured out by now, we're recording this at the end of January. This episode is scheduled to go out January 29th. And 2026 is not the reprieve we were all looking for.
Oh my God, no. No. I'm not even sure what to say. No.
And we all thought this is going to be it. And, I know y'all saw those memes where nobody was declaring this your year. You're going to tiptoe in here really quietly. Someone did not follow the assignment.
Yeah.
And truly, both politically and in the United States, it has been very chaotic and very stressful. And I can speak for myself personally, I have felt that as well. And that I had a death in my family. There were a lot of stressful family dynamics. There was some hard news with my daughter. And so what we really started thinking about was, okay, well, how do you handle these situations when they come up? And nervous system regulation seems to be a very big buzzword topic in a lot of people's messaging right now. And I kind of chuckling because back last year when we were creating our first webinar, which was Pressure to Purpose, and it was how to combat burnout in your business, ChatGPT kept feeding us nervous system regulation a lot as words.
What is this silly buzzword?
Yeah, we really dismissed it out of hand, actually, and did not use that phrase in any of our messaging or in the webinar. I don't know if you remember that. We really scratched that because it seems so what the hell does that mean? Does that even I think it's funny that it's popping up everywhere now, and then which just tells us we're all using the same chat.
Well, yeah. Well, no. And I think it's because the actual experts in psychology, in medicine, in these, in various fields are really saying, you know what? The world is screaming loud right now. And that whether it's an immediate grief like you had with your family, or a national grief for the murder of a nurse, grief is present. It is out there. And many of us are really holding on to more than what is usual and normal, and to some extent acceptable to how our bodies function. And when life speeds up or really hits super hard, our nervous system decides how we can handle this. So my first thing always is, hey, what exactly is the nervous system? I think we know we have a heart and lungs and skin and a brain and these various systems. But the nervous system is your body's internal safety mechanism.
Yeah.
It is really, and it's what says, am I safe right now? Do I have the capacity to handle whatever it is right now? Can I, and here's the choice I need to make is, can I rest? Can I connect? Or is it that I have to take action? It's fight or flight. And and it's your nervous system that shapes your reactions before your thoughts do.
Yes. And what I
Yes.
think is so interesting about that is you said fight, flight. I think fight, flight, freeze, which I think is that rest piece. But I think when you talk about the reactions that we're making in business, which sometimes seems silly when we're dealing with all of this other stuff, right? But the fact of the matter is, you still have to make decisions in your business. And so regulating this in a certain way really allows us to put the thought before those physiological underpinning reactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important to have a regulating piece to it. And what I'm seeing right now when we discuss with our colleagues, with clients, and people in our community, I see that everybody is really struggling with that focus piece
Mm-hmm.
because we are not regulating our nervous system appropriately.
Right. Yeah. And really, and just to make sure that we all understand, and that's the large part is me too, but when we talk about regulating the nervous system, we're really talking about helping the brain, the heart, the lungs, the gut all communicate safety to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's, and that is like, that is really, really important, that this isn't just one thing that is out there. It's like, do you ever get scared and really before your brain connects, your gut, or I
Yeah.
remember being so scared even before I couldn't talk, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I think it is actually, when we really think about it in terms of our businesses or in business, is that it's such a critical piece, because it creates, when your nervous system is regulated, I think it creates the harmony that
Mm-hmm.
we need to be successful.
I agree. I think it takes you out of reaction mode and into
Mhm.
responsive modes. I think that you
Yes.
can be proactive in your business when you can see things from a clear standpoint. And what I think is so interesting about all of this, right? And I think that the month of January gave us very extreme cases of putting your body into that fight or flight response. And
Mhm.
I think that then this is an extreme reason for the necessity of nervous system regulation. But the fact of the matter is that in our lives, one constant there will always be is that something bad is going to happen. And that's not
Mhm.
trying to be doom or gloom. And it's not
Mhm.
to say that, I have a negative outlook on life or anything else.
No.
I think there is a reality to one thing that I can promise you is that something hard is coming around the bend. And it's
Mhm.
what do you do and what things do you put in place in your life and in your business? And frankly, when you're a business owner, it's one and the same because everything bleeds into each other. What are
Mhm.
you putting in place to regulate? What are you putting in place to decompress? What are you putting in place to handle those things as they come? Because it's not if they come, it's when they come. And again, there's going to be varying degrees of this, right? And in
Mhm.
degrees, depending on how close you're feeling to all this. We've got a really good friend and colleague that lives in Minneapolis right now. Like they're in the thick of it. Okay.
Mhm.
And then there's some degrees of separation for maybe the rest of us. I just had a death in my family. It felt like very much in the thick of it this last week.
Mhm.
grief. And then there's some degrees of separation to that. But regardless of where you stand in that,
Right.
in that, we all have to have things in place to handle it. You had major
Yes.
surgery this last month and other things going on. So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
there's just stuff.
Well, exactly. And I think the really important piece to always keep in mind that when we're talking about regulating our nervous system or getting back on track, or however, however you need to spin it to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what happens in your head. Because I think about, I was away, I was in paradise. And the answer should be to me, well, what do you have to be complaining about? What do you have to be worrying about? You were in paradise. Well, the fact is, I didn't disconnect. I
No.
didn't disconnect. I did not disconnect. My husband and I were very wired. And because of that, by the time Saturday morning rolled around, I was pretty, I was stressed. I was angry. I was all these feelings. And I'm like, okay, normally my answer to that would be, I'm going to go row. I'm going to get it out of my system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go row. I'm gonna get out of my system. Maybe I don't, I'm not a journaler, but I will have a conversation probably in writing with people who I normally talk to about things like this, that kind of thing. And I'll be able to decompress.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that really wasn't, I needed to figure out ways when I wasn't home and in my normal routine to get out of my head.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really important thing to think about in business as well. You can't have these amazing creative ideas and all this if you're just in your own head. And that's why getting out of your head means moving, breathing, having sensory input, and also really important, feeling supported. And so for me, what did that look like? That meant went to the beach. Even though
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really supposed to, I went walking on the beach.
Yeah.
We went out and spent, an afternoon in a rainforest. Talk about sensory amazing. I just breathing the air alone said to me, I'm calming down. I'm re I'm grounding myself and all of those things. And just even moving around, you know, getting out in your town, in your city, in your community, and just and walking around. This was really important, and also allowed me to return, well, very early this morning with, I think, a clearer head. And I'd love to hear how you have responded to, the very personal things that have happened to you the past few days.
I really did think about it through the lens of savor, actually.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, this is why we love frameworks as
Hmm.
people, right? But I think that it's one of the reasons I love this framework so much because I took it out through the elements of savor. Okay. Step out of your comfort zone. What sort of hard conversations that I need to have to
Mm.
get through this time, right? So for me personally, I had a death in the family. My grandfather passed away, but I have a lot of really hard family dynamics in my world. I've been no contact with my mom for 3 years. This weekend brought very sharply into focus why that decision is made and why that decision continues to be made. But it brought apart some hard conversations and really needing to take those things head on. So how did I have to step out of my comfort zone in those moments? And then also having to be there with my mom and be respectful and be kind still and hold true to my values. And we've talked about values on this podcast and how are they operational. those things were so valuable for me to bring those lessons into this weekend too, because I really got to root myself into my values and how did I want to show up in the hard moments.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about that a lot. I thought about aligning with my passion and purposes, which I think goes back to the values conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Really understanding how, again, what are my passions, my purpose, what are things that are important to me, and then that's going to dictate how I show up in the hard moments instead of being, again, reactive in toxic
Mm-hmm.
moments. And even as things were coming out in the political landscape, very much in a very similar way, I was thinking about this alignment piece and how Serendipitous Rebel wants to show up in these moments. And it's, it led us to have conversations, which is leading us to have this podcast, but also, where are we pivoting in our business as well? And we didn't make large pivots, but we postponed things by like a week, and we made decisions on how we're going to look at things in a bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture over the next 30 days. And I thought about venture under your own power. You said rowing. I did Pilates, which was so great. It was the first thing I did when I got home Monday night. I just needed to come and move my body.
Mm-hmm.
Open to community and connection. The ability for me when I'm having a hard time to lean into, you are my soul sister, my community, other friends, my husband, and know what that community is and what is important for my community. We talk a lot about square squads on this podcast, which if you're new to this podcast, your square squad is just, if you could just have a tiny little post-it and fill it up with the names of, these are the people whose opinions really matter or who support you. And then not everybody could make that list by default. You have to be really selective on who's on your square squad. But I think being really conscious of my square squads and whose opinions matter and whose don't, so I know what to react to and what I can ignore, that has been incredibly important right now. And then the unwinding with self-care piece, which is resting, knowing when to check out, knowing when to sleep, and when to have a chocolate chip cookie.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then finally, the R is the ritualizing gratitude and celebration, and really, really reflecting on where I can stand from a place of privilege in the world climate events, which gives me the capacity to have a voice and speak out when I don't agree with things, but also alternatively in dealing with the tough family dynamics this week, being incredibly grateful for the life I've created for myself and the distance I've had from all of that. And I think going through all of those 6 things has been a really great grounding practice to deal with some of the hard stuff.
Wow. Yes. Yes. And I love the personal application. And when I think about it, and I think about the SAVOUR framework, it's very much making you capacity aware,
Mm-hmm.
that you're very much aware of your limits, where you can be flexible, what your hard lines are. And this is really, really important. And it gives you the bridge between, your nervous system and the outside world,
Yeah.
which is really fabulous and something I think that people really are looking for. And it's like you're staying present, yet there's nothing about this there's nothing about this that is saying you're bypassing reality.
No, I hear a
Yeah.
lot from people right now that they're dissociating. And I think that a lot of people are doom scrolling,
Uh-huh.
and we're going through things. And I categorize doom scrolling in one of two ways. We're either cannot stop looking at the horrors of the world. And so we're just
Right.
constantly filling our cup with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And alternatively, or we're dissociating and we're
Yeah.
just in the scroll looking at, cute cat videos, which, and I think that none of these things are wrong
Sure.
in small capacities, but I think it's just, again, being really, really conscious and intentional with where
Hmm.
we're putting our time and where we're putting our energy and our focus, because
Yes.
we've one of the things you and I talked about behind the scenes is the idea of numbing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this is a thread that we were going to introduce in a later podcast episode, and we're going to talk more about this. You're going to
Yes.
hear this a lot on the podcast coming up, but that our I guess default mode, so many of us, is to numb with something. And I think that it's being really conscious with how we are dealing with the challenges of the world around us, because at the end of the day, that's not nervous system regulation. That is, again, dissociating. That's turning it off. That's not giving us the capacity or the resilience or building the muscle internally that we need
Yeah.
to handle
Yeah.
the hard thing that's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so much of the solutions that we offer in Serendipitous Rebel, and it's what we've really built our business model around, it's what our retreats are built around, is this idea that you should disconnect sometimes and you should rest and recuperate sometimes, but not with the idea that we are just turning our brains off and then
Yes.
turning it on full
Yeah.
blast,
Yeah.
when you're ready
Yeah.
to come back to it. It's how do we rest and recuperate and recover and still remain conscious of this thing that is going on over here, but give ourselves the space and the environment to be able to see it clearly. I think about those like torture rooms where like a speaker is like blaring like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
music
Yeah.
at you,
Hmm.
that's often what this can feel like, right? But if you can give yourself like the space for some quiet, and the ability to have like positive and good things reflected back to you, or not even positive or good, but like accurate, objective, clear things reflected back to you, even, it feels less like you're under attack all the time.
Well, so I think that when you talk about numbing, which, yes, definitely something we're going to be digging into more soon. Um, so I think numbing and regulation are really, they can look so similar on the surface
Mm-hmm.
because both slow things down, but they come from very different relationships with our nervous system. Numbing is using disconnection to survive.
Yeah.
Regulation is helping you learn to connect. And those two things are very critical distinctions, Like
Yeah.
one says we need to avoid sensation or numb ourselves to avoid sensation. The other says, you know what? We're going to stay with this sensation, but we're not going to overwhelm.
Yeah. So I want to give a really good example just
Uh
from
huh.
my personal cray this weekend. So, like I said, I'd been no contact with my mom for about 3 years. We're together at this funeral. You're in this like group family dynamic. Okay.
Mm
I would think that what the way I chose to walk into it was, um, I was not going to give anybody the satisfaction of like causing a scene or like, but I also wasn't going to engage either. So you can
hmm.
operate
Mm
within
hmm.
this group of environment. I'm super out of my comfort zone. It feels awkward the entire time. I'm not going to lie, right? But she is there. She's talking. I will acknowledge, but I'm not going to engage,
Mm
right?
hmm.
Whereas I think numbing or completely dissociating from that would be like every time she walked in a room, I would make a big deal to walk out. Or if she talked to me, I would completely turn away. And I think there's like a middle ground here of the way I chose to engage with this. And this is not, by the way, I don't think I handled it perfectly all weekend, don't get me wrong, but I think that there's a way, again, like with the news, like you said, you stayed connected all weekend with the news, with what was going on, and you let yourself feel all of the feelings around it, numbing would have been, I'm just going to hit the bar and forget that anything is happening and
Yes. Or I'm
completely
going to
drown
complete,
myself.
yes. Or I'm going to completely shut everything off. I don't want to know. I can't know. No, 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 no. That type of response.
Correct.
And yeah, so it really is, and it's such an interesting set of, truly, I think these are skills that can be
Yeah.
learned, that we're just, it takes some practice, but I think that we can definitely, learn these skills, and really important to do so. I think about the state of the state of the world, and to be like, for example, in the middle of a rainforest, when there's so much divisiveness and hatred and pain going on right now. And the ability to just step away, but not completely shut the door, because we actually did not have cell service or internet for much of our time in the
Yeah.
rainforest. Really good thing. But looking at the colors and the fog rolling in, and the lush green, and some of the most adorable bugs, truly bugs, it was,
Yeah, you can keep that.
yeah, well, yeah, but, and actually, to be honest, I have to say that you were in my thoughts a lot, because it reminded me a lot of Costa Rica, a lot of Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we led
And
for those of you
yes,
listening, we led a retreat. That was our first retreat we
yes,
led together,
yes,
was in Costa Rica.
yes. Well, having a rum drink that, lights up your taste buds, or tasting food. I mean, there's just so many different ways of handling in this whole regulation process that can be very healthy, and really what your system needs. Because our bodies as a whole, they don't like, it doesn't like us, it doesn't like surprises. There's nothing that our body likes less, and our body is willing to accept, really willing to accept, sometimes the worst of things, because stepping out of your comfort zone is a hard thing to do. But
Yeah,
once you get in practice, once it becomes a habit, once your nervous system, your brain, your heart, your lungs, your gut, all of these organs realize, I know I know that there's something, little shakeup is coming, then it gets used to it, and it thrives on it and wants it. And then you're like, wow, why all of a sudden my breath is no longer shallow? I'm breathing deeply. I feel
yeah,
my lungs fill with air. I feel my heart isn't beating out of my chest. My I feel that my blood pressure is not skyrocketing. All of these things, or my gut doesn't hurt. So I really do, I don't know. I think that I love that you used savor. Loved it.
yeah. Well, because also remember, I saw a meme once that said, when my body can understand the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and an email, I will be unstoppable. And it's
Yes.
because that
Yes.
biologically we are hardwired still from a very innate nature to like outrun the saber-toothed tiger, right?
Yes.
And except that that shows up in different ways, and that's what puts our body into that I'm not safe mode and being
Uh-huh.
off. What I love about step out of your comfort zone, and why I love that it's the first pillar of savor, is that at the end of the day, we all want the dopamine hit that comes
Yes.
from being
Yeah.
out of our comfort zone. Okay. I swear that's why people are dumb enough to go bungee jumping. No, no, no shade on people that
Yeah,
go
not my
bungee
thing.
jumping, but no.
Yeah.
But I do think of too the Costa Rica thing. We did a zip line when we did our Costa Rica trip, and I loved that. But that is a dopamine hit of such adrenaline. That's such an adrenaline rush for me that I love that. And
Mm-hmm.
it is interesting because in the chaos of everything that was going on this week, I was reaching out to a friend to figure out road conditions because we did have to drive home through this crazy ice storm. And that if you don't have something in your life that is giving you those dopamine hits naturally, okay, your body can seek it out in more toxic ways. And what I think about what's so great about the habits that we have built in our lives and what we encourage in Serendipitous Rebel is the
Mm-hmm.
habit of movement, okay, of venture under your own power.
Mm-hmm.
For you, it is rowing, which absolutely gives you the dopamine hits that you need to
Mm-hmm.
regulate and keep going. For me, it's Pilates, and it's
Mm-hmm.
doing. When I say that Wendy rows, you guys, like that woman is a machine. Okay, how many meters are you? You're almost to 10 million, aren't you?
It's going to take me a while longer. And being sidelined with this knee stuff. But anyway, yeah.
Well, but she's over 9 million meters, is my point. Okay, and the that she has rowed, and to give you like some capacity of that, I don't know what I wrote in my hour class, but it was not that many years when I did it with you. So the idea to get to 9 million is just kind of insane. And then, for me, alternatively, I don't just do light Pilates. Well, there's nothing really light
Oh no,
about
no,
Pilates, but
no.
I tend to, in my need to really work things out, do a suspend class where I'm hanging upside down on a TRX doing planks and pikes and piking up to get it done, which is just kind of insane.
It
But
is.
the ability to do something that I never thought my body would be able to do before and work towards that is such a rush for me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in such a healthy way. And then so I think that it's facilitating these moments in your life that can give you those hits in a really positive way is why we do things in Serendipitous Rebel, like the Make It Happen Challenge, which we run once a quarter to get people to move their bodies. It's why we incorporate so many different things in our mastermind retreat, like boy band dance class, or
Mm-hmm.
we will ask people to get on, Wendy will invite people to get on a row machine next to her while we're traveling, and if you're brave enough to go do it, I consider myself in shape and I can't keep up with her. So it's it is it's little things like that we encourage participants to do with us that
Yeah.
gets you out of your body and into some movement and venturing under your own power, but out of your comfort zone all at the same time. Because the ability to accomplish those things and do it in community and connection while simultaneously working in things that you are passionate about, that's how we cultivate joy in our life. And that's really how you stick it to the man when it all said and done is, and we get through these harder times.
So, and I think this is a super interesting, relevant, important, required conversation right now. So, I've noticed something in the past, especially in the past week. More and more coaches are coming out with, you started off the year setting all these goals and everything has gone to heck in a handbasket already. I have seen so many, quick workshops, quick master classes. Let's, get back on track. Get back, and I think it's really indicative of the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
That nothing is on kilter. Nothing is balanced. Everything is just sort of haywire. And I think the ability of tying, the savor framework to like regulation of our nervous system is probably what we all need
Mm-hmm.
to get back on track or find our track what it is, or see, and whether it's get back on track or shift a little bit or whatever people, choose to do, I think it's really what's needed right now, probably more than anything. And that is making sure, have I connected with someone today? have
Yeah.
i have i have I stopped and given myself the time and attention that I need for my own self-care? And when you talk about, and I think I loved how you phrased this in terms of gratitude and celebration, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a very self-centered, self-aggrandizing kind of thing. It is sometimes the gratitude piece of is acknowledging that I am in a place of privilege, and how what is it that I can do to make this world a better place.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot because I
Hmm.
think that the idea that you can feel so helpless is so easy of a thing. It's a rabbit hole you can fall
Yes,
into.
yes.
And I think that when you can take the time to rest, relax, and
Hmm.
reflect, okay, and you can get yourself into that place of like, I'm actually in a good place, especially in comparison to so many other people in the world right now. Now, what can I do? What skill sets do I have to offer to this situation? One of the big things I've been working on in my local community is special education reform. Oh, I can absolutely focus my attentions in continuing
Hmm.
work, right? Uh,
Hmm.
I think that some people have this ability to have a voice and rally the troops, for lack of a better word. And you have gifts, you should use it. But part of knowing those gifts and being able to cultivate those gifts are about having the time to reflect and, again, be intentional on how we respond and walk into these situations and not just reactive. And so I think that I saw another meme recently that it's like, if your gift to this world might be that you have offered a soft place for littles in your life to land, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What a beautiful gift. It was just kind of recognizing that I can't necessarily do a lot specifically about what's going on in Minneapolis, right? I'm all the way in Houston, Texas. I'm far away right now. What can I do? I can reach out to people that I know that live in that community and make sure that they're okay.
Hmm.
I can discuss and make known my feelings about the situation, and then I can do what I can to make my corner of the world a good place and a safe place and a warm place.
Hmm.
And it's also understanding that that's what I can do in the moment and not sit
Hmm.
and do nothing.
Right, right. And um and I think it's, and I know that one of the big things that's also going around right now for entrepreneurs and for business people is making a decision about, do we talk about this at all?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very personal decision. And it
Yeah.
is definitely one that takes some soul searching, that takes some, you know, it's how you choose to run your business and show your values, etc. And I think it's also what you personally decide to do. I think that I will get on any soapbox at any time and talk about how special a person is who works with veterans.
Mm-hmm.
It is, yeah, my husband's one. He uses VA benefits.
Ditto.
Um, yeah. And so the world is a horribly lighter place because a human being who gave his time and talents to help veterans, who many people do not give a rat's ass about, is no longer on this earth. You know, and anyway, so it's a that is that and that is a decision that people need to really search their souls and make a decision about what they choose to share and talk about, and how they decide to do that.
Yeah. And there's no totally right or wrong answer to this, but I do think that pretending like nothing is going on is also not the right
Mhm.
answer. So
Yeah.
I think that with all things in life, there is balance, but I think that it starts with yourself, and it starts with recognizing that these things, if these things specifically, if the murder in Minneapolis over the weekend or anything personal in your life is not affecting you now, it's the acknowledgement that if it's not this, it's something somewhere that
Hmm.
is throwing you off kilter. And so it's putting things intentionally in place in your life to do it. Because also I believe, and I think we believe at Serendipitous Rebel, the world is made a better place by encouraging more people with values and gifts to share their values and gifts. And I think that we work with a lot of coaches and a lot of relationship coaches and
Hmm.
therapists and um, just phenomenal business owners with gifts, whether they are culture specialists or, we go on and on. They have amazing gifts that are actually making their corner of the world better. Okay.
Hmm.
And so the best thing we can do is continue to fill them up and help them grow their business. Um, you know, a client that helps, stroke and aphasia survivors. Like, it just amazing
Yeah.
works that people are doing in the world.
Yeah.
Well, what makes the world a better place than continuing to help those people grow their bottom line, share their gifts with more people, and ultimately make money, because I have a lot more options to do good in this world with my money, combating, other
Hmm.
people and their money, right? And so not working and not showing up and not continuing to do and serve as the gifts that we put out in the world doesn't do anybody a damn bit of good either.
Well, on that note, wow. Oh, yeah, I'd love to know what other people think. And I'd love for listeners to share with us, you know, what do you think about this? How is it landing with you? And I actually look forward to digging more into, yeah, the importance of this, the whole thing about my brain is gone. I'm sorry. I look forward to digging into more about this, the whole thing about
Numbing.
nervous system regulation, actually,
Yeah.
because we talk so much about finding the joy within us and how it works for each of us individually. And it's so important that we look at things holistically. And I think that none of us live in a vacuum. None of us live in a silo, even though sometimes it feels like we do, but we don't. And it's really, really important to realize that everything is holistic, and that includes what's going on in the world, what's going on personally, what's going on with our businesses, and all of these pieces. And how can we best utilize our own tools and our own skills and values and all those things, to work in with the pieces. Yeah. So anyway, um, I'm working on very little sleep today, so I'm actually going to go take a nap.
I love that for you. I love that for you. All right, guys. Well, until next week, we will see you later. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
But only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about our upcoming masterminding opportunities on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.
Hey, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.